Hi there, Anastasia. My name is Ellen. I'll be correcting these essays for you. I'm happy to see that you have begun the course and that you're starting to submit essays as part of the course. Great job. Let's take a look now at what you have written here in your first set of essays. The first essay is about doing an enjoyable activity with a child, so let's see what you said. In recent years, there is an ever-growing debate on the topic of children's development. With reading being a traditionally preferred option, more and more experts point out that there is a number of more enjoyable activities that could be more beneficial to a child. I side with the latter. This essay will discuss this issue using different examples to demonstrate points and support arguments. Okay, so on the whole, this is nice. It read very easily. You had some nice vocabulary there. But there are a couple of little grammatical things. Well, a couple of little grammatical, and then one that's a little bigger. So let's talk about that. I want to go through this again and just correct some of the errors, okay? So in recent years, the right tense here is there has been, okay? Not there is, but in recent years, there has been. That would be more correct here. And then here, not there is a number of enjoyable activities, but there are a number of enjoyable activities. This is grammatically more correct. And then here's the biggest problem here. You say I side with the latter. This is unclear because how do we use the former and the latter? Well, we use it like this. Let me see if I can give you an example. Okay. My neighbors have two little boys, John and Chris. The former is 8 and the latter is 10. Okay, so that's how we use the former and the latter. And there really seems to be a lot of confusion about this with people misusing it. So here, when you talk about I side with the latter, I really had absolutely no idea what you were referring to because you've used this incorrectly. If you meant to say that you side with this idea of more enjoyable activities being more beneficial, then you needed to state it more clearly. It could have been, personally, I side with this view, okay? And then that would have made more sense, okay? All right, let's move on now. All right, foremost is not really a great linker here. You can't really use it like this. So I would recommend just getting rid of it entirely. You don't need a linker here. You could have said firstly, but if you say firstly, then you need to say secondly, and I don't see a secondly somewhere. So for a moment, let's just not use any linker. You don't really need to. And let's just read what it sounds like without one. It is important to mention that thanks to reading sessions with adults, youngsters might learn reading faster compared to their peers. The reason why is that children tend to comprehend more quickly through repetition and storytelling. IES, studies show that with daily reading time, preschoolers increase their knowledge of letters of an alphabet without any additional learning. Therefore, parents and educators should use reading as an important tool in the development of the youth. Okay, so what are you telling us here? You're telling us that reading develops literacy. Fine. Okay. Okay. Nonetheless, there is a variety. Okay, again, because this is plural here, the variety, just like with the word number, because this is plural, it should be there are a variety of entertaining activities that help to develop a higher number of skills when compared to reading. I'd rather not see this again. I saw it up here. Where was it? There was something else in this paragraph where you said comparing to, so try to use a different expression here. Let's see. When compared to reading, it is because, hang on, let me read this one more time. Nonetheless, there are a variety of entertaining activities that help to develop a higher number of abilities as opposed to reading or when compared to reading, maybe. Okay. This is because, not it is because, this is because their performance involves more skills. Now, this is a little confusing. I don't know what there is referring to. It could be the activities, it could be the abilities. It's unclear here. Okay? So when you're using a pronoun, make sure that it's absolutely clear what that pronoun refers to. Okay. Let's see. For instance, drawing might aid in the development of imagination, hand coordination, and artistic taste. Likewise, games such as Lego and puzzles help to boost a child's patience and attention to detail. Thus, adults have multiple options of games and creative tasks to choose from to make learning more interesting for the youngsters. All right, that's fine. All right, that was nice. I like that. I liked your examples. I like that you addressed imagination and the other skills, so that's fine. In conclusion, with reading being a useful activity in a child's development, adults can utilize more enjoyable activities as they provide greater results. As this issue will become even more important in the future, adults should explore additional ways to make learning entertaining without relying, not solemnly, wrong word again, solely is the word you wanted, on reading. Okay, so that's fine. I was a little concerned here when you didn't mention anything about creativity, but you mentioned it here, and so that's okay. So let's talk about this a little more holistically. It was good. It read rather easily. You might have noticed that I corrected a number of vocabulary words. So that's one thing I want you to be careful of. Your vocabulary is occasionally incorrect. I'm glad that you're using some less common vocabulary. That's important. But just do note that it wasn't all accurate. So that's the first thing that kind of stuck out to me. The other thing that stuck out to me was, like I just said, as soon as I finished, it's this issue of task response. So you were supposed to talk about better skills and more creativity compared to reading. You did that. And you did a good comparison of reading, and I really liked that. And you carried this idea of this comparison throughout. And so this is very good. But here you, and I really like the way you did that here. Let's see. So this was a good paragraph, but this for me needed a little work. In other words, I wanted you to tell me not just about literacy, but also about creativity, because you can see here better skills and creativity. So I wanted to hear a little bit about how reading can help develop creativity as well. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense. Let me see if I can explain it again. Since you're supposed to be talking about better skills and creativity, and you've got this enjoyable activity versus reading, then, and you decided to structure paragraphs like this, then ideally you would have talked about reading, why it's good, and why it's good in terms of skills and creativity. And then here, other activities and why they're good in terms of skills and creativity. Okay, so this way you're really covering all the points that the essay has asked you to cover. So that's something I would have liked. In addition, as I said, the issues with some vocabulary, I wanted to see those resolved. But other than that, I thought it was a lovely first essay. So nice job. Okay, and now I want to go on to your next one. Okay, so now let's go to the essay about schools and whether they should be more entertaining. Let's see what you wrote. There is a constant debate on whether or not to include entertaining activities in the learning process. With both sides in mind, I believe that an implementation of a limited number of games, plays, or movies can have a positive impact on some of the pupils. This essay will discuss this issue using examples of young children and high school pupils to illustrate points and support arguments. Okay, this is interesting. All right, I wouldn't have put the "and" here in front of implementation. It should have been, I believe that implementation. You got really right into the point, and that's not necessarily bad. That's good. So I want to see how you develop this, okay? The major reason in support for this. Now, I don't want you to do this because you've switched paragraphs now. So major reason in support for what? Restate it when you begin a new paragraph, okay? So the major reason in support of more entertaining classrooms, that's all you had to write, is that it is easier for children to learn through activities that they enjoy, like watching movies, playing games, and you have a list here, and working with flashcards. This is due to the fact that throughout their early years, they were learning most of their skills this way. Okay. Recent studies showed that learning through games provides a stronger and longer lasting effect on young peoples compared to more traditional learning methods. Thus, it might be reasonable for educational establishments to implement a wide range of entertaining activities into the educational process of junior students. Okay, so, all right, this is good. When I first read it, I had an issue with the way some of your ideas were linked. And in other words, I wasn't really convinced that all the ideas went together. I read it a second and a third time, and I think I've pinpointed where the problem is. So you did a really nice job of using some cohesion here. Okay, this is due. So this links back to this way, and then you say this way. Again, it links back. But then what's really the link here between this idea and the one just before it? So I felt like this was kind of lacking for me, that there wasn't a solid link. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to use one of those kind of typical cohesive elements like a therefore or a moreover or something like that. I'm not implying that. But I do think that you needed to have some way of linking these ideas together to show how they are connected. I'm going to see if I can come up with something for you. How about something like this? You could have said, in fact, recent studies highlight how effective this learning method is, as they have showed that learning through games provides a stronger and longer lasting effect on young pupils. Okay, so that's one way you could have done it. And you really emphasize it like this, and you link it to the previous idea. And I think it's a better way of kind of showing that all of these ideas are really just links in a chain. Okay, and that's very important. All right, so if you had done something like that, I would have felt a lot better about this paragraph. But as I said, I did have to read it a couple of times. I was trying to figure, well, how does this connect? But if you had done something like what I suggested, it would have flowed much better. All right, let's look at the next paragraph. Those who support a more traditional approach to education claim that when focusing on entertainment, schools might neglect the educational side. This could lead to the drop of student marks. For example, a survey showed that the schools that implemented entertaining activities in high school showed a constant decrease in grades. Therefore, it is important for educational institutions to prioritize education rather than entertainment. Okay, now, I have to tell you that I don't agree with using this paragraph in this essay. Why? Now, you may have felt that it was important to put a concession paragraph here, okay? And I agree with you. I think that having a concession paragraph is very important. And that it can really provide value. It can really show that you're a mature thinker and that you've thought about the issue from all of its sides, and you've come to a reasoned conclusion in favor of one side over the other. And so for that reason, I think a concession paragraph is great. But with this particular one, there are some issues, and I want to tell you what they are. First of all, I don't agree with its placement. Usually what we do is we put the concession paragraph first, and then we put the paragraph that we support. So I would have changed around the order of these paragraphs. That's the first thing. The second thing is that look at the prompt. It says, which do you agree with? So they very clearly want your opinion. Okay? So if you're going to have a concession paragraph, in this particular essay, you need to not talk about those who support a more traditional approach, but you need to talk about why there is value to this view. So you need to present it as your ideas. and not the ideas of other people. Okay? So you could have started out with something like, there is clearly evidence that when schools focus on entertainment, they may tend to neglect the educational side. This could lead to the drop of student marks, et cetera, et cetera. And then you could have said something like, therefore, it is important to for educational institutions to prioritize education, maybe not rather than entertainment, but even though they include entertainment. Okay, so this would have been better. You want to present it as your view, because this is not a discuss both views and give your opinion essay. This is asking, oops, wait. This is asking purely about your opinion. So it doesn't make sense to present the opinions of other people. Okay? So, yes to a concession paragraph in an essay like this, but put it first right after your introduction, and make sure that you kind of present it as your view. Okay? So that's one thing. And now another thing is you also, oh no, actually this was okay. This essay will discuss this issue. That's fine. Yeah, because you didn't say I strongly am in favor of entertainment. You just said that you're going to discuss the issue. And so that was fine. A lot of people do this incorrectly. They say in their introduction, I strongly am in favor of entertainment. And then all of a sudden you read a concession paragraph and then you think to yourself, well, where did this come from? Why are you telling me what's positive about the other side if you strongly agree? So we can talk about in the future how to kind of deal with this sort of issue. All right, but you didn't have this problem here, so you're fine. All right, let's take a look at that conclusion. In conclusion, it might be beneficial to build a more entertaining learning process for young children in order to help them adjust, while it could also lead to negative results with elder pupils. Okay. As the educational process will continue to diversify in the future, it is rather important for schools to approach this issue, taking the interest of all age groups into account. Okay. So let me see if I understand. It becomes a little more clear here in your conclusion. Essentially, what you're telling us is that this entertainment in schools is not such a great idea for older kids. You mentioned here high school. Yes, I think is what you're saying. Yet here in this paragraph, you were telling us that this is a wonderful thing for younger children because this is how they learn in the beginning. So since you differentiated it like that, and since you also pointed this out in your conclusion, I would have liked to see this in your introduction. So let's see. Rather than just telling us, I believe in implementation of a limited number of games played and can have a positive effect, I would have liked you to say for young pupils exclusively, or primarily for young pupils, but not for older. Okay, so something like that, because what you want to do in your introduction is you really do want to give something like a blueprint as to how your essay is going to continue. Okay, so you want the reader to know pretty much what you're going to cover in the paragraphs that follow. So that's how I would have changed your introduction. Okay, overall, I'm quite happy with your level of writing. I think you're off to a great start. I think you're using the template quite nicely. But I do want you to think about some of the issues that were brought up in this correction, okay? The next thing you need to do is you need to correct these essays. You need to create an error correction list, writing down the mistakes and the correct version of each. And then, of course, write us another set of essays. So send all of those three things to us together, hopefully in the next day or so you can really keep up your momentum. I'll be here. I'll be waiting. So I'll be looking forward to your next set of essays. Good luck.